So on this channel, we've talked a lot about the difficulties that we might face in a situation where we're with an avoidant and we are experiencing the anxiety of being anxiously attached. Because let's face it, it is one of the hardest dances to learn. And I don't think anyone actually ever learns it because it's always changing. It's ever evolving. The steps seem to move and alter. The dance floors change. The environments change. Everything changes all the time. So it's really, really difficult dance to learn, and I don't think anyone ever masters that. But there are benefits to this situation that can help you to grow, evolve and learn and heal. So this is my theory, is that actually the anxious and the avoidant need each other, and that's why we go into these situations. That's why we find ourselves in relationships with people who we're very attracted to. And then we learn these lessons that are for our benefit. I always say that everything is happening for us and not against us. And if you're willing to look at yourself in this situation, you can really take this experience as a massive learning curve to teach you about you. So let's talk about the difficulties that you might experience in a relationship with an avoidant when you're anxious. The main thing is that you constantly feel like you're chasing this person. And if you stay in that behavior of chasing, it feels like it's all you doing the work. And where you're wanting closeness and connection and your nervous system doesn't like space and distance, it's going to feel activated a lot because the avoidant feels best when they have control over their environment and they can have control of the space that they need in order to regulate. So the two have opposite needs, basically, in order to regulate, which again gives each of these people the opportunity to challenge those old ways of being that might have been developed in childhood. But while both are unconscious of their ways of being, they're going to blame and poke and challenge the other, which will create conflict, which will create right and wrong, good and bad, which does not equal connection ever. So one of the really difficult things is that there's a real power struggle with these two people, particularly if they're very strong-headed. You know, it can feel like a lot of arguments where one person is trying to explain what they need and the other person is running from it. That's a horrible place to be. If you're an anxious person or not an anxious person, but you have some anxiety, then this is going to make your anxiety worse because the person that you want to be closest to is pulling away, and that activates all those old traumas and wounding of abandonment, loss, fear of rejection, all of that stuff. And where the other person isn't willing to take responsibility for their actions and their emotions and their ways of showing up, that can really reactivate that I'm not good enough wound. And we go into feeling like we've got to try really hard to be loved, which might have started long ago in your childhood. And if you think about it, what we really want is to just be and not have to try so hard to be loved. We just want to be in life, right? And really, we want to be in a relationship where we can just be. And yeah, sometimes we're going to be challenged, but not to the point where we have to abandon ourselves so much to get our needs met. And that is what happens in this dance, is that very often the anxious leaves themselves in order to come closer to the avoidant, who is constantly pulling away and is, giving you very little of the connection that you're wanting. So it can feel really unfulfilling. It's a really unfulfilling and confusing situation. And the other difficulty in this situation is that it is very confusing, particularly if you're with an avoidant who actually shows signs of really wanting what you want, but simply just doesn't know how to stay there. The avoidants do want closeness and connection. They want to be seen. They want to be loved. They want to be held. They want to be embraced for who they really are. But the problem is that they think who they really are is these coping mechanisms, and they've got a blind spot to seeing that actually they are not someone who really needs all this enormous amount of space, and they are not someone who just isn't good in relationships. They are not that person. That's just a coping strategy. And when they're unwilling to see it, it can feel like you're screaming and no one's listening. So that's no good for anyone, is it? And it's no good for anyone if you're, like I say, we just want peace. We just want peace. We just want harmony. We just want to be. We don't want to try so hard to be loved. But when we're in a relationship with someone who is avoidant, it's just reactivating a belief that was there long ago that, like I say, we just have to try really hard to be loved, and we've got to do, and being loved takes work, and if I don't do this, that and the other, then I won't be loved. And that is not the kind of purity and peace and calm that we're wanting to evolve into in a relationship that can stand the test of time, right? So, and this also isn't to say that healthy relationships don't experience challenges, because they do. But when we're in a relationship with someone who's really unwilling to do the work, this is going to feel really hard. It can feel like you're lugging someone up a hill, and you're trying to explain something to someone who maybe speaks a different language, because essentially they do. They're not experiencing or speaking the same emotional sort of awareness as you, because they've never gone down that road, or they have to some degree, but their coping mechanisms are still their blind spots. So basically the difficulty is you're always going to feel like it's you doing the work if you keep doing the work. Yeah. So the benefit, believe it or not, in all this, there's a benefit. And the benefit is that you'll be faced with a mirror to see how you function in relationships when faced with space and distance. Because in an ideal world, these two people come together, and this is like the greatest benefit of all, if we can get there, is that these two people go, look, I'm avoidant, and I have been avoidant, and I don't want to be anymore. And so I'm in this situation committed to overcoming that. I mean, that is what you really want to hear. But you also need to say, I'm anxious, and I've been really anxious all my life, and I'm very committed to overcoming it. So that means that I'm going to have to challenge some of the behaviors that I've been doing that push you away. Because the fact is that being with you as an anxious person is also challenging. It doesn't mean that we are the good ones and they're the bad ones. It means that both people have difficult coping strategies that push and pull at the other, and we need to take responsibility for ours. I always say that we've got to work on our side of the street, because we can't do the avoidance work for them, and you might have been trying. I'm very guilty of doing this, and what it did is it made me very controlling. So where I was actually I thought I was being loving, explaining, look, you've got this experience because of this childhood thing that I could see so clearly. It's so obvious to me why this avoidant was avoidant, and I can see why you might feel like that, and I just want to love you through it, and all of that. I'm filling the space. So they're moving away, and I think I'm getting closer, I think I'm getting connection, but actually I'm just pushing this person away and not changing anything about myself. I'm still thinking that I'm right and this person has got something to learn, and therefore I come across as really self-righteous and knowing it all, when actually I'm not challenging myself at all. Do you see what I mean? And I'm not saying that that you're not wrong. I'm not saying that you're wrong, because you probably do know. But I'm saying that this experience is an opportunity for you to work on your side of the street, yeah? And for you to actually sit with the discomfort of distance and space, not for too long, to the point where you're in a relationship where someone's like off doing their own thing and you're sitting there thinking, is this enough space? I don't know if that's not what I mean, okay? It's that you can be able to have in an ideal world, we're in a relationship where we can have open communication, where the avoidance says, I'm experiencing that need for space, and they can verbalize it and say it, and that you can sit with it rather than go, oh God, and you might at first, but you don't do the behavior that pushes them away, right? So there's a challenge for both people, which can help you to experience an evolution that actually ends up helping you to become more secure in your relationship. So historically, in this situation, whenever I was in a relationship with someone who was avoidant and I was anxious, I was really aware that I was anxious and that I had to heal. But the challenge that I faced was that I didn't know when it was time to leave, because I thought that I was there for the benefit of my healing. And so I had to work on myself, and I thought that was all my responsibility, which it was. But there is a point in this situation where it isn't possible for you to heal anymore, because you're in a relationship with someone who is not willing to meet you halfway. So your healing actually becomes leaving, choosing yourself. Your healing becomes actually taking a stand for yourself and doing something where you have actually acknowledged, you know what, I'm putting everything into this situation. I am absolutely committed to changing my behavior, and I have done, but yet you haven't met me halfway, and you're still acting avoidantly. You're still doing unhealthy behaviors. You're still showing up in a way that is destructive. And so therefore I have to choose myself. So there is a point, and it's different for everybody. And there has to be a point where you really do choose yourself. But if you're in this situation and you're going through the motions of this dynamic and you haven't got that clarity where you can really make a decision to leave, which, by the way, is a very hard place to get to, because it isn't easy to leave someone that you really want to experience that love with. But my question and a reminder for you is that you want to be in a relationship where you don't have to try so hard to get the bare minimum from someone, okay? That's like a given. You don't need to be in a situation where it constantly feels like you're expelling energy and not getting anything back, because that's going to drain your soul, and it's going to prevent you from experiencing the relationship that you do want and deserve. And sometimes leaving is of a massive benefit to the avoidant too, because then they actually get to experience the consequences of not showing up in the relationship. And I have had so many ex-avoidant clients come to me and say, oh my God, I can realize now how I was showing up and what I was doing, and how this sabotaged the relationship, and what I can do now to change it, but I don't know where to start. And they start to be willing of doing the work only when they've experienced the consequences, right? So that's part of the lessons and the benefits that we can all get from this situation. So like I say, there is a benefit. To summarize, there is a benefit in that if both people are willing to turn towards each other, to experience the difficulty of some space in a relationship, which is an inevitable thing that happens in all relationships. There has to be a bit of space, because it creates that connection, so if we were connected like this all the time, we would feel, really codependent and overwhelmed with each other. And there wouldn't be that need for connection and closeness, because it's just always there. But if we can accept that, then we can learn to be okay with the distance and learn to soothe ourselves and our nervous system in the space of that inevitable distance that's going to happen in any relationship with someone, no matter who they are, right? But also, if the avoidant is also willing to do the work of coming closer and experiencing the thing that they fear, which is being seen, so that they can let go of some of their shame and their old story about not feeling good enough and not feeling worthy in a relationship, and I think to some extent both people have that belief, then there can be a beautiful evolution that makes both people feel safe in a whole new way than what they experienced before. And that is massive growth and massive healing potential for both people. And the benefit for you, even if this person is not going to, do the work on themselves, is that you will experience a lesson for yourself that shows you about you and actually gives you the opportunity to change the next move in the dance, which means that inevitably something has to change. So if you do this and they do that, and you do this and they do that, and it's always been that way, you move closer, they pull away, you move closer, they pull away. And then they come back around, and then you move closer and they pull away. But you know the dance, you know what happens. And so if you do something different, which is like you create space and you choose yourself, then inevitably this person is going to do something different, right? And that's either going to end the relationship, which, by the way, is for your benefit if they're not willing to do the work, or it's going to get them to challenge their own way of being and start to create a different dance, which is both turning in to each other. And if you think about it like this, it's like, okay, if we're both turning to each other, then we're going to have moments of real connection, and then we're going to have moments of disconnection. Sorry, my hand's doing a weird thing, but there's going to be moments of connection and disconnection, because that's essential for a relationship to keep flourishing, right? And when both start to feel safe with both of those, then we can create something beautiful. But like I say, even if this person doesn't do that, there's a benefit for you, which is you're watching this video right now, so you're interested in your own healing, and you get to change your own patterns and behaviors in a relationship so that you can experience the relationship that you want. And even if that means you leave, then you've won. You get the benefit of the lesson that you needed to learn. Like I say, I think both these people need each other, but a lot of the time we spend so much time thinking about what's going on with them that we don't think about what's going on with us. So I would question your strategies that you use in the face of distance and space in a relationship. And I know how overwhelming and confusing this can be when you're like, should I text them? Has it been long enough before I last sent them a message? And should I message them again? And I know how horrible that is. But when you start to trust yourself and you work on self-trust, which is the main thing, and really, really being at peace with who you are and coming to a relationship from that self-worth and that self-love, your need to fill that space and to move closer will be less. And inevitably, people will gravitate towards you. You become like the sun in a relationship, that, you know, all of the moving parts of your life can move around, and you can be that secure person that you've always wanted to be. And so, yeah, I think I've said in this video lots of the benefits and the drawbacks, and hopefully it's clear to you that if you're in a situation with an avoidant, there is an opportunity for evolution. But the drawbacks of this is that if that person is simply not willing to do it, then you're going to find it very difficult until you get the main benefit, which is the lesson that you were there to learn and the mirror that they were holding up to you to show you that it's time to change the dance for you so that you can actually experience the relationship that you've always wanted. So I hope you found this video useful. If you'd like any more information about what I do, if you'd like to work with me, there's information in the links below. If you'd like to join my Conscious Creators Masters Academy for February, the February cohort is going to be amazing. It's going to be an opportunity to meet other people just like you and experience really beautiful relationships where you are seen, where you're held, where you're loved, which I have seen over and over and over again help people to feel more secure and more confident in going into relationships and transforming relationships. So if you'd like any more information about that, you can find all the information in the links below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.